Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our Council Committee meeting for June 14th, 2022. We would like to acknowledge the traditional territories and the oral practices of the Blackfoot Nation, which include the Siksika, the Kainai, and the Piikani. We also acknowledge the Tsuut'ina, the Stoney Nakoda First Nations, the Métis Nation Region 3, and all people who make their homes in the Treaty 7 region of southern Alberta. We're making this acknowledgement to demonstrate our continuing efforts to work together as we strive for reconciliation through increased and collective learning. We have an agenda in front of us here. Number one on the agenda, the Alberta Plus 55 Plus Summer Games 2023 bid. Lisa.
Thank you, Mayor Petrie. I'm obviously joined by Jamie and Randy, so we're going to work as a group together on this because it is our three organizations that are working on it. The Joint Service Committee recently discussed this concept of submitting a bid to host the Alberta 55 Plus Summer Games in 2023, and staff from the city, the Brooks Region, and Brooks Region Tourism have begun working on the bid package for regional submission. But prior to submitting our bid committee, which is the three of us, are seeking some formal support from the municipalities in the following ways. An official letter of support from the City of Brooks saying that you support the regional bid and that you will be a host partner, and a commitment to provide funding for the event if our bid is successful.
So just a little background on the Alberta 55 Plus Games. It is a nonprofit, volunteer-driven organization, and their goal is to help mature Albertans enjoy a vital future through active lifestyle choices. So the games are a multi-sport event. They provide the opportunity for Albertans aged 55 and over to compete in a variety of sports and recreation activities. These are qualifying games, which means that those that compete have to qualify through their zone trials before they can compete provincially. Qualifiers at the provincial games can also move on to compete nationally at the Canada 55 Plus Games. So there are 15 core sports as part of the games, and if we were selected, our plan would be to hold events throughout the region to showcase some of the rural areas as well as our facilities here within the City of Brooks. So you've been provided with a table that has some of the suggested facilities for each of the core sports, and the proposed locations at this time are essentially so that we could demonstrate to the Alberta 55 Plus Games the region's ability to host the games and that we have the venues to support this. There will likely be changes to the locations and venues and are open to feedback and suggestions on this. There's also some social ceremonies and events as part of the games, including an opening and closing ceremonies and at least one evening social event, as well as cultural activities that will help showcase the region. So between hosting sporting events in various locations and using campgrounds around the area, we really hope we can highlight the entire region and the city. Part of the process for bidding on the event is, of course, to gain municipal support and then also creating an organizing committee to look after the logistics. So that would include planning the event, coordinating food services, coordinating accommodations, venues, working on budgets and things like that.
So according to the event organizers, based on past events, they expect 750 or more athletes to participate in the games, and it's over 4 days, with an expected economic impact of over $650,000. That economic impact would include things like hotel stays, campground stays, obviously restaurants, gas stations, as well as spend at number of local businesses for the preparation of the games. So things like ordering volunteer shirts, meals, advertising, signage, all those types of things. There's also a requirement for, we have to show that we have a capacity of up to 700 rooms for hotels and 300 sites for campgrounds, which we'll be providing in our bid. And from a tourism perspective, as Randy kind of mentioned, highlighting the whole region, we really want to showcase the whole region, all the tourist attraction, the things there are to do in the area, with a goal from a tourism perspective to get these participants in the games to come back and hopefully visit us on another occasion as well. So that's not something that could be measured in this economic impact, but it's something that we would expect would happen as well.
So while the final bid package isn't finished yet, we are working on it and we have a draft budget attached to the package. Our plans are that the event would be held in late August 2023 And if our bid for 2023 wasn't successful, we could bid for the 2025 games as well. So if you look at the budget, there is a line there for municipal funding, and our bid committee is requesting a financial contribution of $35,000 each from the City of Brooks and the County of Newell, and $10,000 each from the Town of Bazzano, Village of Dutchess, and Village of Rosemary. We don't need these funds in 2022. We only need them if our bid is successful, and then can be allocated from the 2023 budget. So our recommendation is that Council Committee forward the request of $35,000 for the 2023 Alberta 55-plus Summer Games to Council for formal approval and inclusion in the 2023 budget. Questions?
Questions? Go ahead there, Councillor. Good enough? Okay, no, okay, well, okay, go ahead, yeah.
Could we allocate money out of our agreement with the county with their 5 and 10? Because we get that for sports and recreation. Is that possible, or just curious?
Through the chair to mayor and council, you could use that funding. However, you'd still have to add another $35,000 back to recreation for covering their other programs. So either way, you would need to use new money for it.
Has the county agreed to the 35,000?
They have.
Okay.
We are scheduled to present to Bazzano next week, and we have discussed with Rosemary and Dutchess as well, but I don't think we have plans as of yet to be a delegate at their councils. I think they're going to discuss it themselves.
Okay, we agree with it, and then we're kind of short on the other municipalities, because that does seem like quite a bit for them. What happens then?
A couple of things could happen. We could increase our fundraising goals, and the other municipalities' participation in the events obviously would be decreased. We wouldn't necessarily be featuring their community as much or encouraging camping and hotel stays in their communities. Another option would be that we just have to scale back in a couple of areas in the budget.
And do we have to build anything new for this? I think when I was reading, I think we have everything in place, right, Randy?
Yeah, for the most part, there are some minor facility or equipment upgrades that we would need. I know we were looking at like some of the events like the floor shuffleboard, where I understand that there are some floor shuffleboard courts at the Legion, but they've been covered up because they weren't used. But things like that, I think we could easily even create on one of the arena floors that can be played on concrete, so we could even paint courts on one of the local arenas, or see if we could even refurbish those ones at the Legion. So there are options. When we were looking at venues for all the different facilities or venues for all the different events, we found kind of that we were able to support with what we have, so there wouldn't be any major projects that we could anticipate needing, like a big amount of money or a big budget for like a major piece of equipment or a major venue upgrade or anything like that.
When do they decide on who wins the bid?
So this year the games are held in the Peace region, and they're held June 20th or so. Yeah, right away.
Oh, right, okay.
And the organizing committee or the provincial body will be meeting immediately after that to choose the following year's participants. Because of COVID, they had to skip a year, so this year's games were actually supposed to be held in 2021. That's why there would be back-to-back years. Normally, they wouldn't do that. You would have an extra year to plan.
And I don't know if, I know Councillor Nesbitt would probably know, but I don't think we've ever hosted the plus 55 games. The biggest equivalent I look at would be 2017 when we hosted the Southern Alberta Summer Games, and that would be the comparable process, because I think we welcome about 2,500 or 3,000 athletes for that one.
Yeah, it was just under 2,000 athletes in 2017, and I know the city also hosted the same games in 2010 as well, so.
And the big provincial one, the last one we did was 1989, and I don't think Councillor Wardrop was even born then. Well, my point is, it is a big venture, and we do get the provincial attention on that. Yeah. Okay, any other questions? Okay, Councillor Wardrop.
You said the last one was held, the current one is held in the Peace region. And what about the other communities? What Could you tell me the last few, where the locations were?
Off the top of my head, I know that this year is the Peace River, Peace Region. Previous to that, it's Medicine Hat. And beyond that, I believe it's Strathmore, not very long ago, within the last like 3 cycles. We also, in speaking with the provincial body, they received expression of interest from a number of communities to host these 2023 games. I'm not sure if those committees or communities will each submit a bid or not, but they were at least interested. And there was Leduc, Sylvan Lake, and I forget who else. Remember anyone else?
So would we be at a disadvantage to like having people kind of having to travel quite a bit of time outside of Brooks to go to these different events? Like, would people find that appealing?
So part of the planning is transportation, and a lot of host communities or host regions. Peace River is an example. They are a regional games as well. I'm not sure what the logistics for their transportation are, but I know that it was mentioned that potentially the handy buses, both city and county, could be used. There are some athletes that come in, they actually will, a zone will charter a bus, and then that busing is provided around as well. So we would try to mitigate that and have as much transportation available to people and plan the events and the games so that that wasn't a barrier. But it is not uncommon for there to be a regional aspect to these games. Peace Region is one example.
We also have the opportunity that if we give the athletes enough notice, if your event was to be held in Rosemary, Rosemary has good camping facilities and people could stay right on site. And the same goes for Dutchess and Bazzano as well. So there is that opportunity as well. And then we could really showcase those smaller rural communities if they chose to participate.
I guess that's my question, and I hope my question doesn't come off rude, but is that what people would want to do? Like to come and, you know, camp in a really small rural community? If you're, you know, there's like, if for instance, if you go and tour, like, you know, you want to check out different restaurants, different activities, right? Walking paths, like those sorts of activities. That would be my only question, if that kind of puts us at a disadvantage, where, as you know, you go, if Medicine Hat hosts the games, think of all the different things that people have access to right away.
I would say I don't particularly think it would be a disadvantage. I don't know, of course, a lot of background on these games or the people that participate in, but from what we're seeing, like from a visitor perspective, a lot of visitors that are coming, especially if they're coming from larger centers, actually really enjoy the small rural experience. So I don't see that as being a barrier that they wouldn't want to, depending on where they're coming from. Of course, but maybe if they're coming from a small community, maybe they would be looking for something a little bigger and more exciting. But and they still would have that opportunity if they wanted to camp at one of our larger campgrounds or something like that and just drive a little further too. But
Yeah.
I know we don't have any problem getting volunteers in this community because we're very good at that. How many volunteers do you need for an event like this? I don't know if you know.
It was estimated about 200 to 250
Okay,
volunteers.
that's not too bad then, yeah. Okay, any other questions? So what do we do? Do we take this back to council then?
Somebody wants to make this recommendation.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay, somebody needs a recommendation. Do you have a question, Bill, or are you gonna? Okay, Bill makes the recommendation, we take it back to council then for approval on that. Okay. Okay, good enough, thank you. Okay, item number 2, the land donation. Lisa, you're back on the floor here.
Thank you. So staff has been in discussion with the landowner. It's W Chan Investments, or WCI, regarding a potential donation of a piece of land in our northeast sector. So we've been discussing this piece of land with the landowner for a while, and they are interested in just donating the land to the city of Brooks to do with as we please. If we decide that we just want to use it as a naturalized space, if we want to finish it, or if we want to subdivide it and use it for development, he is completely open to all of those options. And the donation would be in exchange for a receipt to be used for their tax purposes. So I've been working with our manager of finance, and Shelley has done some research to ensure that the city would be able to provide a tax receipt as requested. And according to the Canada Revenue Agency, we can do so in the amount of the market value of the piece of land. So in order to determine market value, both the city and WCI had appraisals done on the land. The two appraisals came in slightly different, but the average between the two was $1,251,000. And the reason that they're just slightly different is just because there were different firms doing it, and they were comparing them to different pieces of comparable land, either directly within the city of Brooks or across southern Alberta. So things to consider if we do accept this piece of land as a donation, that the municipal tax revenue that we receive each year is $9,257.83, and there's also a small amount of repaving tax from the property. The majority of the land is owned direct control. It could be surveyed and subdivided up into a number of different parcels. There is an Alberta registered wetland on the property, so that would not be able to be developed, but we could certainly use it as a wetland feature if we obtain the land. There wouldn't necessarily be any operating costs moving forward because it is not currently maintained, but it would be an opportunity to provide some control over the stormwater and drainage in the area. So we could take the opportunity to do some investment into the land and control that water. Just some proposed uses for the land moving forward would be that we could create a fenced dog park with a small pond for the dogs to swim in the wetland area, perhaps a location for a new community sign, as is in our strategic plan, or perhaps an extension of the existing Kiwanis campground due to the close highway proximity and connections to our parks and pathways. And so at this time, staff is recommending that the City of Brooks accept the donation of land from W. Chan Investments in exchange for a tax receipt valued at $1,251,000.
Okay, any questions? Councillor Nesbitt?
It's not a question, actually. I'm under the understanding that the owner passed away. Is that correct?
No, the owner that we have been working with, his name is Chris Chan, and it is his father's and grandfather's original company that obtained the land many, many years ago. So he is the controlling body that we've been working with.
His father passed away.
It's
just
possible that
recently,
his father did.
Okay.
Any other questions? Councillor Woodruff?
How much of the wetland is that, takes up that parcel there?
It takes up just over 7 acres of a total parcel of 28 acres.
Any other questions? Okay.
Would,
Go ahead.
sorry.
No, go ahead.
I'm just thinking of the usage for the area, like if it would be useful. Like it's like right up against the highway. I'm just thinking, is that potentially why there hasn't been anything developed on the property thus far? Like, is it, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to see what I'm trying to visualize that space, I guess, and what would potentially go there. I don't know. I guess I don't really have a question. It's just like, how long has it been undeveloped like that? And there must be a reason why.
Yeah, it's never been developed. To my understanding, it's would be virgin land. The original parcel was that entire triangular shape between Sutherland Drive East and Highway 1. When the Chan Corporation first purchased it, they built the Smitty's and then the gas station on the piece of land and slowly subdivided piece out by piece. Back when they first obtained it, there was no overpass there, so they actually ended up selling a bunch of their land to the Alberta government for the overpass, and when the City of Brooks developed that little Castles Place East road in there. And then slowly they've kind of chunked off the most usable and desirable pieces of land, which is what you would see as Harwood Ford, and then the development just north of Harwood Ford. The land north of Harwood Ford along Sutherland Drive East is good, I would say, for development. Obviously, the internal parts where the wetland is not going to be very prime for commercial development. And it has a little bit more difficulties in terms of access, especially like from the highway. You can see it from the highway, but not necessarily access it very easily. I'm not sure if that even answered the
Yeah, no,
question.
no, that's good, yeah. Okay, anybody opposed to the concept here? Okay, and then we need a recommendation to take it back to council for approval. Oh, go ahead.
Not spending money, I think you can approve it right here.
Okay, okay. So do we need a motion to do that then, or?
Yeah, we would need a motion.
Okay. Council Nesbitt, you're making the motion? Okay, Council Nesbitt makes the motion to approve it then. Okay. Do we need a second here? Okay, no. Okay, yeah. All those in favor? Okay. Thank you, Lisa. Okay, I don't believe Sandra's on. Is she, Bruce? No. Oh, okay. So I'll need a motion to go into closed session. Just wait, go ahead. Yeah. Councilor Idris, yeah.
We, Councillor Goodenough and myself attended the Filipino Days, and they presented this recognizing our contribution to the event.
Okay. Thank you, yeah.
And I'd like to also add to that, I think I won in the race. Mohammed and I had to dress up and
No, you didn't.
wear
You
Filipino
didn't win.
attire, and I think I won. And I have pictures to prove it.
No,
Thank you.
But I actually won another one. But you didn't win the one that yours.
Okay, well, no, thanks for bringing that forward here. Okay, I need a motion to go into closed session. Councilor Woodruff, motions to go into closed session. Okay, thank you, Bruce.